School sucks, we all know that. But why does school suck so bad? In his book, Weapons of Mass Instruction, which a lot of this information originates from, author John Gatto explains that boredom in schools is a common emotion experienced by kids and teachers alike. Boredom was everywhere. When asked why kids felt so bored, they always gave the same answer. They said the work was stupid, that it made no sense, that they already knew it. They said they wanted to be doing something real, not just sitting around. They said teachers didn't seem to know much about their subjects and clearly weren't interested in learning more.
Bueller.
And the kids were right. Their teachers were every bit as bored as they were. Teachers are themselves products of the same 12-year compulsory school programs that so thoroughly bore their students. And as school personnel, they are trapped inside structures even more rigid than those imposed upon the children. We have been taught to think that success is synonymous with, or at least dependent upon, schooling. But historically, that isn't true in either an intellectual or financial sense. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. Someone taught them to be sure, but they weren't products of the school system. Military data shows that literacy rates in the US have dropped from 98% in the 1930s to an unbelievable 27% in the 1970s. How is this possible, with the latter being far more intensely schooled? If schooling equates to an illiterate population, then what is the point of public schools? The reason given for this enormous upheaval of family life and cultural tradition was, roughly speaking, threefold. To make good people, to make good citizens, and to make each person his or her personal best. That was what we were told. But American journalist H.L. Mencken wrote that public education is not to fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The aim is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is the aim in the United States, and that is its aim pretty much everywhere else. Speaking with businessmen in New York City, President Woodrow Wilson explained the usefulness of public schooling. We want one class to have a liberal education. We want another class, a very much larger class of necessity, to forgo the privilege of liberal education and fit themselves to perform their specific, difficult manual tasks. Long-term legal confinement of our children through the educational system is deliberately designed to produce mediocre intellects, to hamstring the inner life, to deny students appreciable leadership skills, and to ensure docile and incomplete citizens, all in order to render the populace manageable. Mandatory education serves children only incidentally. Its real purpose is to turn them into servants. At the turn of the century, most people considered it unnatural and unwise to buy things they didn't actually need. Mandatory schooling trained kids to think they should consume nonstop. It encourages them to not think at all and leaves them prey to marketing and propaganda. Some kids are leaving school functionally illiterate, with no understanding of basic math and nobody that really cared enough to teach them. Teachers teaching for a paycheck. And it gets worse. A teacher friend of mine is currently being told to entertain and accommodate children dressed up in furry garb. What is a furry, you ask? Well, it's a kid that wants to run around in animal costume and expects everyone to play along. Imagine going to teacher's college and the first day of school you realize you've entered an insane asylum. Not only that, but the inmates are running the place and you're not even sure what to call them. Boy, girl, them, they, cat, dog, bat, dog, and guess what? You're not allowed to discipline these kids thanks to a policy declaration cooked up at the Ford Institute in the mid-1960s, ushering in the violence we now see in our schools. Classrooms descending into chaos. Educators no longer able to keep order. It is believed that genius is as common as dirt. We suppress our genius in our kids because we haven't yet figured out how to manage a population of educated men and women. The solution, I think, is simple and it is glorious. Let them manage themselves. A bunch of creative geniuses figuring out how to make the world a better place sounds wonderful. Now, once you understand the logic behind modern schooling, its tricks and traps are fairly easy to avoid. Schools train children to be employees and consumers. Teach your own to be leaders and adventurers. Schools train children to obey reflexively. Teach your own to think critically and independently. Well-schooled kids have a low threshold for boredom. Help yours to develop an inner life so that they never get bored. Urge them to take on the serious material, the grown-up material in history, literature, philosophy, music, art, economics, theology, all the stuff that school teachers know well enough to avoid. Challenge your kids with plenty of solitude so that they can learn to enjoy their own company. Conduct inner dialogues. Well-schooled people are conditioned to dread being alone, to seek constant companionship through the TV, the computer, the cell phone, and through shallow friendships quickly acquired, quickly abandoned. Your children should have a more important life, and they can. First, though, wake up to what our schools really are. Laboratories of experimentation on young minds. Drill centers for habits and attitudes that corporate society demands. Why does any of this matter, you ask? Well, we just committed the worst sin, and we did it to our children. We broke the most crucial societal contract to protect our most valuable asset, our own kids. During COVID-19, we injected experimental drugs into children that have dire side effects, many of which are uncertain. We knew that children didn't have a significant risk and that they were not big spreaders, yet we were implementing much stricter guidelines in our schools. We used our children as shields, and we will be judged for it. What teachers did to our children is unspeakable. Teachers are not acceptable people to be given the responsibility of protecting, nurturing, and educating our kids. They've proven that through their actions. The teachers broke every ethical and moral responsibility that they had. Union bosses and school boards are equally to blame, but teachers seem to be the worst of the lot. They've disqualified themselves from education utterly and completely to hurt, demoralize, and dumb down our kids, to divide them from one another and to throw them away if they don't conform is a crime against our species and nature itself. A school system created to destroy minds should be burned to the ground, and the control of our greatest assets should be taken back and transformed. If school is as important as we were told, then how do you account for Washington or Lincoln, two of America's best presidents, having almost no school between them? How to explain America's two legendary industrialists, Carnegie and Rockefeller, both being elementary school dropouts? I mean, why didn't school matter in their day, but only in ours? Dropouts are the minds the standard programming couldn't tame. They should be admired and respected. How many Washingtons, Lincolns, Bransons, Carnegies, Rockefellers are denied a voice in our synthetic anti-meritocracy, which awards privilege on the basis of college degrees and family connections? One more Benjamin Franklin, 10 more, 10 million more, an inconceivable number. There isn't a right way to become an educated person. There are many ways as there are fingerprints. It is now time to reimagine a future for our children. A future not forced on them by state-controlled systems of manipulation and mediocrity. We must allow kid geniuses to flourish once again, not in a classroom designed to keep them docile and conformist, but in a classroom of the greater world. Thanks for watching.